They fined him $8,000 for swimming in his own lake. Yep, you heard that right. A man named Mateo Rivas got slapped with an $8,000 citation by the local HOA for taking a dip in the very lake he grew up fishing in, the same lake his grandfather dug out by hand with a rented backhoe in 1956. And the best part? The HOA didn't even own the lake. Mateo had just finished his morning swim, towel slung over one shoulder, dog barking at dragonflies, when he opened his mailbox and saw the letter, bright red border, bold block letters, and the signature of the Queen herself, Veronica Langston, president of the Winding Pines HOA. The paper said, unauthorized use of shared community water body, fine, $8,000. Like it was some kind of joke. But Mateo wasn't laughing. See, Mateo wasn't part of their little gated kingdom. Never had been. His 112-acre ranch sat just outside their border, completely independent, privately deeded, and blessed with the clearest body of water for 5 counties. But to Veronica, that was unacceptable. She didn't like fences she couldn't climb, gates she didn't have keys to. She marched up to Mateo's porch that first week he moved in, hair shellacked into place, clipboard under one arm, tone sweet like spoiled milk. I'm sure the last owner informed you of our community standards, she chirped. Mateo blinked. I'm not part of the community, he said. This ranch has its own lot, has for generations. Her smile cracked for half a second, then reassembled itself like a mask. Well, we'd appreciate it if you voluntarily complied. It promotes harmony. He gave a polite nod and walked away. Should have ended there. But oh no. That was just the beginning. First came the pamphlets, then the friendly reminders, then the threats. By the time that $8,000 fine hit his mailbox, Mateo had already sent property maps, deed copies, and legal notices, all ignored. What Veronica didn't know, what made Mateo almost enjoy that moment of reading the fine, was that he had a little surprise of his own. For the past 6 years, Mateo had been buying up parcels of land, not because he had some master revenge plan. He just loved the open spaces, the trails, the quiet. Turns out, those quiet parcels connected. The clubhouse driveway, now his. The gravel access road to the lake, also his. And most importantly, the easement they used for their water rights, his too. He drove to the county clerk's office that same afternoon, file folder in hand, and pulled the records. It was all there. Recorded easements tied to 5 legacy landowners. 4 of them, Mateo had already bought out. The 5th, a retired trucker named Joel, who owed Mateo a favor from back when Mateo rebuilt his daughter's porch for free. 1 quick call, 1 notarized letter, 1 unanimous vote. The new access fee, $5,000 per year per household. And enforcement, immediate. 2 weeks later, Veronica threw a pool party so obnoxious it could have been sponsored by a reality show. Champagne, speakers blasting, HOA board members in matching polos. Right in the middle of it, a courier delivered the official notice. Mateo stood by his fence, arms crossed, watching through the trees. She read it, turned pale, then red, then furious. She locked eyes with him and whipped out her phone. 911, yes, I'd like to report extortion. This man is holding our community hostage. 10 minutes later, a squad car pulled up, lights flashing across the lake. Mateo met them at the gate, boots on gravel, stack of documents in hand. The officer was young, polite, and slightly overwhelmed by the mountain of maps and deeds Mateo handed him. Veronica stomped over, shouting about stolen community property, demanding arrests. The officer read, then read again, looked up slowly. Ma'am, he said, adjusting his sunglasses, this man owns the lake, the land, and the only legal access route your HOA uses. He has the right to charge for it under the terms signed back in 1989. Veronica's jaw dropped like a sack of wet laundry. Just then, Ronald Vega, HOA treasurer, skidded into the scene, sweat pouring down his face, waving papers in both hands. Veronica, he barked, what the hell is this? I just found out about a $5,000 access fee increase and a budget shortfall. Were you going to tell us? She stammered. Ronald, please, let's talk about this privately. He turned to Mateo. You did this? Mateo didn't flinch. I gave you options. You chose to pretend I didn't exist. Ronald looked like someone had just hit him with a truth brick. And the officer? He stepped back and said, This is a civil matter. I suggest you all take this up at your next HOA meeting. But that was only the tip of the iceberg. because the next night around 2 a.m., a Rusty, the dog, started barking like hell. Mateo stumbled out of bed, heart pounding, only to see flames licking up the side of his barn. Fire. Real fire. Not an accident. Not lightning. Someone had set it. He grabbed the hose, barefoot in the gravel, hands shaking. Called 911 as the blaze climbed skyward. Fire trucks arrived just in time to save the house. And you know what he found the next morning? One of the private property signs he'd posted along the far trail. Gone. Not torn. Removed. Carefully. Something wasn't right. And Mateo knew this wasn't just about fences anymore. It was war. Let me tell you, after that fire, something in Mateo shifted. He stopped sending emails, stopped arguing, stopped trying to prove anything. From the outside, it looked like he'd folded, like the HOA had finally worn him down. But behind the scenes, Mateo was building something no fine, no fire, no HOA queen could tear down. He printed signs, dozens of them. Big, bold, laminated notices that read, "Restricted access, private property, 24/7 surveillance, violators will be prosecuted." With his nephew Nico back from college, they posted those signs on every fence line, trailhead, and access path the HOA used. Nico even helped rig motion sensor cameras with infrared capture, just in case someone decided to get sneaky again. And sneaky they did. One night, around 3:40 in the morning, Mateo's phone buzzed. Motion detected at the western trailhead. He opened the live feed, and there she was, Veronica, hood pulled over her head, crouched near the fence, holding a matchbox. Not a flashlight, not a phone. A matchbox. Mateo hit record. Within minutes, red and blue lights lit up the gravel road like a fireworks show. Sheriff Valdez pulled up, 2 deputies behind him. Mateo watched from the porch, arms crossed, Rusty barking by his side. Veronica spun around like a deer in headlights. The sheriff stepped out. "Evening, ma'am. Mind telling me what you're doing out here with a box of matches at 3 in the morning?" She stammered something about patrolling for trespassers. The deputies weren't buying it. They found a gas can stashed behind a bush. Handcuffs clicked. But that wasn't even the climax. See, Mateo's lawyer, Gloria Sáenz, a no-nonsense property litigator with a voice like a gavel, had been compiling everything. The fake fines, the fire, the surveillance footage, the easement documents, the HOA's own budget trail. And when she dug deeper, she found something big. Turns out, Veronica had been running a little side hustle for years, partnering with shady contractors, inflating invoices, funneling HOA funds through a company registered under her cousin's name. That $5,000 access fee Mateo imposed, it exposed a gaping hole in their books and a scam going all the way up the chain. Next thing Mateo knew, a state agent knocked on his door. "Mr. Rivas," he said, "you didn't just win a land dispute, you uncovered a statewide racket, and your footage, your fire, that's Exhibit A now." Yeah. Veronica didn't just lose her power, she lost her freedom. They took her out in cuffs, and this time, there were no pool parties, just silence. But you know what the best part was? The silence that came after. No fines, no clipboard patrols, no HOA volunteers sneaking around his fence line, just clean air, still water, peace. That fall, Mateo and Nico rebuilt the barn from scratch, with help from neighbors who finally felt safe enough to show up. Even Miguel, the local carpenter who'd once been fined for his window shutters, showed up with tools and tamales. Said, about time someone humbled that woman. Cheryl, the new interim president, stopped by with her grandkids and a basket of banana bread, left a handwritten note that said, "Thank you for standing your ground. You didn't just protect your ranch. You reminded the rest of us we could stand too." And Mateo? He didn't just stop there. With Nico's help, he launched a YouTube channel, The Landline with Mateo Rivas. The first video? Veronica's midnight matchbox arrest. It exploded. Within weeks, 80,000 subscribers, comments pouring in, "We need a Mateo in every HOA." This gave me chills. You're a hero, man. And maybe he was. But Mateo didn't care much for that word. He just wanted people to know. They weren't powerless. He started hosting monthly meetups by the lake, called them landowner uprisings. No forms, no fees, just folks sharing stories, helping each other out. They swapped tactics, built fences, filed lawsuits, even helped an elderly widow reclaim her illegally towed trailer. And once a year, They threw a huge bash, Freedom Fest. No HOA, no fines, just neighbors laughing, swimming, barbecuing by the same water Veronica once tried to claim. The sheriff even stopped by in plain clothes, off-duty, ribs in hand, grinning as kids cannonballed off the dock. But the final scene? It happened 3 months later. Mateo stood by the lake at sunrise, coffee in one hand, Rusty curled at his feet. The same spot where it all began. And for the first time in years, he didn't feel watched, threatened, or hated. He just felt home. Nico joined him, arms folded. "You think she'll ever get out?" he asked. Mateo took a long sip. "Doesn't matter," he said. "She's not my shadow anymore." Because the land was his again. Not just legally, not just on paper, but spiritually, the way his grandfather intended. And now? That lake didn't just belong to him. It belonged to everyone who showed up with respect. Veterans with PTSD came out on retreat weekends. Kids from the city learned to fish. Families came out to share stories and find peace. And if you ask Mateo, that was the real win. Because when the fire fades and the noise stops, all that's left is the truth, your land, your voice, your fight. So wherever you are, whether it's a ranch, a condo, or just a room in someone else's house, remember this. You are not too small, you are not alone. And sometimes, building a dock is the best way to burn a bridge. If you've ever battled an overreaching HOA or seen a bully crumble under the weight of their own ego, drop your story in the comments. Hit subscribe for more true tales of justice served hot. And tell us below, who's the Karen on your property line?